Hey everybody, welcome to the show, Around the Nation, right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Thursday. So we got a good Thursday for you, a Thursday show for you guys today. I'm not feeling quite 100%, but the show must go on, right? So we're going to talk about the super elite. That's interesting. I think you're going to like that story. We also have the Democratic Party, what's going on inside the Democratic Party, specifically dealing with Nancy Pelosi after the loss of Joe Crowley to, of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That's still having huge reverberations throughout both the Democratic Party and, as you're going to see as well, the Republican Party. We also have a Morning Joe segment that I think is really interesting. We're going to talk about. He actually says something I agree with. Interesting. We also have a racist candidate running as a Republican. Big surprise there. We'll talk about that. So, got a few things in the news today that I want to talk about. And of course, always there's a lot of stuff that we don't always get to, but I do want to address Foxconn real quick. So, there's like a Foxconn deal that possibly might happen in Wisconsin, and that's going to cost somewhere around, I forget quite the number, but it's going to be very expensive. It's going to be one of the largest, if not the largest, subsidy given to a foreign corporation to create jobs in the United States. Congratulations, Trump. How's that Buy American working out for you? Supporting American business. My ass. So, just real quick, I wanted to just talk about that for a second. Yeah, it's a disaster. It's sad. All this stuff. So anyway, hell of a day. So before we jump into the stories, jump into the details, please remember to give us a like and a share. Also, please consider using the Super Chat or becoming a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. Okay. Anyway. So, let's dive into it. Now, all throughout his campaign, President Trump has railed against the elite. That's the problem. You got the elites, and they don't know what they're doing, and they've got control of everything. Well, we're going to take it back. We're going to take it back for the people, right? And once again, at a recent rally, he again went after the elites. Although, he also said something very interesting. Now, he said, I hate it. I meet these people. They call it the elite. Well, okay. Well, again, that matches with his populist rhetoric. He's not a populist at all, but he does use some sort of populist rhetoric, railing against the elites, and of course, all that stuff. But here's where it gets a little strange. He said, we got more money, we got more brains, we got better houses and apartments, we got nicer boats, we're smarter than they are, and they say they're the elite. Well, that's very strange for a president who claims to represent the little guy, the guy who's been crushed, the normal manufacturer living in Ohio and other places in the Rust Belt. We've got better things than they are, and they call themselves the elite. Well, then he says, well, obviously, you're the elite. We're the elite. In fact, they're so elite now that he says, let's call ourselves from now on the super elite. But isn't the whole problem with the elite the fact that they are the elite? Wasn't that the whole purpose of calling them out? Say, look at those elitists. Well, they got everything, and you've got nothing. And it's all because of them. But, oh, no, that would be actually true. What we have in the system today. Well, you can't say that. So now, here we go. Elites. He said, we got more money, more brains, better houses, and nicer boats. Now, look, he's not talking about you. Okay, he's not talking about somebody working in the steel mill. Or somebody in the nail factory, who, by the way, is going to be losing their job. Or the guy working at Harley Davidson. No, he's talking about himself. I'm better than the elites. I'm more elite than the elites. Look at me. I'm so much better now. I'm president of the United States. In fact, earlier this week, he said pretty much that. You ever notice how they always call the other side the elite? The elite. Why are they elite? I have a much better apartment than they do. I'm smarter than they are. No, you're not. I'm richer than they are. I became president and they didn't. And I'm representing the greatest, smartest, most loyal, best people on earth. The deplorables. Well, he at least got that right. Look, he says he hates the elite. But in reality, he is an elite. And actually, he's desperate to become part of that group. I mean, look, this goes back during the election, after the election, and throughout his entire life. Trump has always wanted to be one of them. The same people that he decries, right? In fact, the Atlantic's McKay Coppins wrote in an article last year about him. He says the president's behavior begins to make more sense once you understand the stories he's long told himself about his roots, his rise, and especially his haters. That he's easily provoked and perpetually aggrieved is not a revelation, of course, but Trump harbors a very specific kind of class anxiety that's rooted in the topography of his native New York City. It's funny to think that he's got some sort of class anxiety. This guy, this idiot, this man-child, who had a silver spoon born up his ass, or, well, who was born with a silver spoon up his ass, I should say. Boy, did I butcher that. He's talking about, oh, those elites up there, they look down on us. Well, you look down on everybody else. You're not a member of the working class. You never worked a day in your goddamn life. Hilarious. But anyway, Coppin's article continues. He said, though he was born into a wealthy family, partaking of the various perks and privileges afforded to millionaires' offspring, never forget that, Trump grew up in Queens, a pleasant but unfashionable borough whose residents were sometimes dismissed by snooty Manhattanites as bridge and tunnel people. Well, fuck you, snooty Manhattanites. That would piss me off. Now, he said from a young age, he was acutely aware of the cultural and physical chasm that separated himself from the city's aristocracy. In several interviews and speeches over the years, he has recalled gazing anxiously across the East River towards Manhattan, desperate to make a name for himself among the New York elite. Now, that's who President Trump is. All he cares about is being accepted by them. He wants to be one of the elites, and now, of course, he wants to be better than the elites. He wants to be the super elites. Wonderful. Look, and you know how he gets to be super elite? By screwing you over. Look, and he's already done that. So, for example, 83% of the tax cuts went to the super rich, right? Those are tax cuts that Trump loves. While at the same time, soybean farmers in middle America are being crushed by the trade war. Harley Davidson is leaving, cutting hundreds of jobs, and they're going to Thailand. Mid-Continent Nail is planning to lay off all 500 employees by Labor Day. So they're going out of business. There goes a bunch of jobs. He doesn't know what he's doing. Well, okay, he doesn't know what he's doing, and he doesn't care. He's not intellectually curious. So all he wants to do is help out, ironically, the elite, which he wants to be. Now, the global financial elite, by the way, he ran ads against the global financial elite. Guess who's doing really, really great under President Trump? The global financial elite. Well, how are you doing? Has your pay gone up? Has your pay increased? Or no. You're losing your job. And your benefits are being cut. He's coming after pensions. And still, and this is amazing. This is the worst part. People who are being affected by this are still backing the president. In fact, there was an article here about Harley Davidson workers. Now, the workers gathered outside the factory gate could end up as collateral damage. However, most are sticking by their man regardless. wearing earphones draped around their necks and safety blinders on their glasses, most happily volunteered that they voted for Trump and would do so again, tariffs or no tariffs. One of them said, quote, he wouldn't do it unless it needed to get done. He's a very smart businessman. So, wait, he needs to do tariffs that are going to destroy your job. That has literally destroyed your job. Because he's so smart. And he's got to do it. He's a very smart businessman. No, he has nothing. He has no idea what he's doing. He bankrupted 6 casinos. You don't go bankrupt running a casino unless you're an idiot. Because he is an idiot. Now, here's another one. I think he's playing poker. I'll hit you with this. He'll hit us with that. I think this will bring him to the table. Unless he's completely crazy. Well, you know what? To be honest, there might be a little bit of hope for this guy. If a year from now he's working at McDonald's for minimum wage, and I hope he doesn't, I hope everything works out, but if he does, I hope there's a follow-up. I wonder if he'll say, hey, it turns out he was crazy. Yeah, who knew? Right. Of course. Now, asked whether they blame the president or the EU for causing Harley's offshoring decision, most say that they blame only the EU. No, it's the Europeans' fault. Well, I mean, they should have just shut up and let us hit them with tariffs. That's not how this works. You put tariffs on somebody, they're going to put tariffs on you back. That's what happens. That's what starts a trade war. There wasn't any negotiation. They didn't sit down and try to hammer out an agreement and fail and then, okay, fine, tariffs. That's what a normal president would do. This guy's like, I don't know, I'm just going to slap tariffs on everybody. I'm going to slap tariffs on Canada. Why? Why? Now, one of them said, quote, the president was just trying to save the aluminum and steel industry. Well, great. Wonderful. Look, man, lobbying tariffs against people without any negotiation is really dumb. Trade wars are really dumb. They're not good. They're not easy to win. You know who suffers the most? You guys. Because the elites, in which he is a part of, will never suffer. But there are people who, no matter what, they've drunk the Kool-Aid, and they will never put the blame on Trump, no matter if he deserves it 100%. These are the people that we're never going to reach. There are some, however, that do realize that, hey, wait a minute, nothing has changed. My paychecks have not gotten bigger. That's why the tax cuts are at a record 30%. They notice that, hey, you know what? Nothing has happened. I haven't seen any sort of gain in my paycheck all that much. My life's not getting better. Some of us are losing our jobs. Turns out, this whole Trump thing, kind of a lie, kind of some snake oil. And they'll notice that while they're doing terrible, Trump's calling himself the super elite. Boy, that must feel good for them, huh? Hopefully there are people who we can bring back to reality. The people who notice that what they were sold was nothing but snake oil. Hopefully, we'll have to see. Super elite, man. It's amazing, isn't it? Okay. Now, after the shocking win of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York's 14th district and knocking off Joe Crowley, who was the number 4 Democrat in the House, the Democratic establishment is starting to feel a little bit of pressure. According to the New York Times, a shock in the Capitol over Mr. Crowley's New York primary loss to a 28-year-old first-time candidate, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, gave way to calculation. House Democrats began floating challengers to Representative Nancy Pelosi. Oh, well, that's interesting. So, look, this isn't the first time they've talked about ousting Nancy Pelosi. So we've heard this talk before. There's actually an unsuccessful challenge to Nancy Pelosi, and her position is pretty much secure at this point. However, now that Cortez has won, Ocasio-Cortez, that is going to change, possibly. Now, the current leadership slate reacted defensively to the threat of a purge, while a handful of other lawmakers had braced from their own primary challenges from the left. Well, that's what I like to hear. I mean, could you imagine a purge of centrist Democratic leadership? I can. And you know what? It sounds awesome. I love it. Now, first up, as I said, Nancy Pelosi. Now, for her part, she dismissed questions about the growing appetite in her ranks for new leaders and the demand from the party base for more liberal representation. Oh, of course she did. Liberal? No, we're not liberal. We're capitalists here. In fact, you're going to hear from that a little bit later as well. But first she says, well, I'm female. I'm progressive. What's your problem? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Wait, what's the 2? Yes, you're female. That seems to be obvious. But progressive? What? Nancy Pelosi a progressive? On what planet? No, that's 1 out of 3. She is against Medicare for all. She's against free college. Oh, but no, I'm so progressive. So progressive. Now, when asked, and she's so progressive that when asked by CBS News' Nancy Cortez if democratic socialism is ascendant in the Democratic Party, here's what Pelosi said. No. No, they're not. It's ascendant in that district, perhaps. Oh, it's just a weird district, so white. One of the famous excuses. But I don't accept any characterization of our party presented by the Republicans. So let me reject that right now. Well, now, wait a minute. Characterization of the party represented by Republicans. Well, she's, of course, referring to the longtime accusation, right, lobbed by Republicans that, oh, my God, Obama and Pelosi, they're socialists. They're so left-wing. It's hilarious and really sad to see the reaction from Pelosi to say, no, I'm not left. I'm not left at all. No, I'm a progressive, but socialism, no, too far. We're capitalists. I don't know, if you're a socialist and you believe in socialist values or democratic socialism or social democracy, wouldn't you own that? Shouldn't you own that? But of course, they're so afraid of that characterization from the right. So they have to say, no, socialism, not ascendant. Weird district, too white. That's not at all true. That district is Queens and the Bronx. Somebody who is white, demographically speaking, Joe Crowley was not representative of that district. And obviously not representative of the values of the people in that district. That's why he lost the primary. So Pelosi, of course, is like, no, we can't, we cannot be characterized by the right wing. Right wing's going to call you socialist. In fact, they already do. They already call you socialist. They already called Obama a socialist. Far left Obama. And he did the same thing. Well, these centrist corporate Democrats, they're so scared of being called left wing. It is really sad. But now, while the Democratic politicians are afraid of being called socialists, there's a lot of people in the Democratic Party who are self-avowed. 6 in 10 Democratic primary voters back in 2016, this is a poll when Bernie Sanders was starting to get around, said that socialism has a positive impact on society. That's the 6 in 10 Democratic primary voters. Now, according to this right-leaning issue advocacy group American Action Network poll provided to Politico, Democratic voters in every age group, gender, and race viewed socialism favorably. Now, a poll out this May found that 46% of Americans approve of a federal job guarantee. Well, it seems to be very socialist. Medicare for all has a 63% support among Americans as a whole, and over 75% support among Democratic voters. It appears that the Democratic voters and the Democratic base is far more socialist than Nancy Pelosi. But no, we're capitalists. That's what we are. Socialism is not ascendant in the Democratic Party. No, not at all. We don't believe in this socialized medicine or anything like that, or a federal jobs guarantee. No. Well, you know what that shows? Pelosi is super out of touch with the Democratic base. She is, however, perfect for the Steve Schmitz of the world. Former Republicans that just didn't like it, how crass Donald Trump was. Oh, he's so mean to people. He's such a bad guy. I'm going to leave the Republican Party and become a Democrat. Except that you don't believe in progressive values at all. Sorry, Steve, there is no room for you here in the Democratic Party. Get the fuck out. Am I clear? Now, look, not only that, but I mentioned replacements to Pelosi. Don't get too excited, right? Rank-and-file House Democrats made clear in dozens of interviews that whether the party takes back the majority or not in November, there would be a push to depose Ms. Pelosi. Representative Emanuel Cleaver said, quote, "There will be an insurgency. I just don't know who's leading it. But I can assure you that I'm as certain of that as I am today is Wednesday." Interesting. Now, who would lead that insurgency? Nobody knows. Okay. In fact, that actually helps make Pelosi feel a little bit better. However, they said that it also raised the threat of the unknown. For over a year, she has known that Mr. Crowley or Representative Steny Hoyer, her 79-year-old second-in-command and longtime rival, would be her most obvious challengers. Both are white men with roots in the more centrist wing of the party. Now, she could face a race from a colleague who was neither white, nor male, nor moderate, and that could make it easier for her diversity-minded colleagues to latch on. So if she gets challenged by somebody who is progressive and fits some of those diversity check marks, watch out. Watch out indeed. Now look, also, she could end up being challenged by somebody who also fits the demographic check marks, but is still part of the establishment. So I want to put out that warning as well. What we need actual progressive challengers that are willing to take her on and can win. And that is the establishment's biggest fear. Now, they can also use that to replace Pelosi with somebody who's, as I said before, checks the demographic, hits the demographic check marks, but is not progressive, and say, look it up, look at that, we've got a new fresh face in the Democratic Party. Look how progressive we are, but push the same policies. So again, I just want to warn you about those guys. Now, as far as the policies, that is the most important thing. So any challenger, you want to watch what they actually believe in and where the money comes from. But here's another fun quote here that explains how Crowley's loss is being felt in the establishment. He said, this is Representative Rick Larson, Democrat of Washington. He said, "This is like throwing a hand grenade in a fish pond and seeing what comes up." Mr. Crowley's loss, he added, is making a lot of people accelerate their thinking on the leadership races. Now, as the vacuum created by Mr. Crowley's exit only seemed to deepen the yearning for Ms. Pelosi, Mr. Hoyer, and Mr. Clyburn to clear the path for a new generation of leaders. Now, Clyburn was asked about this, and he was not happy about that. He said that Mr. Clyburn grew testy and admonished a reporter who asked whether he, Ms. Pelosi, and Mr. Hoyer could hold on for life. Quote, "I hope you recognize how late in life I got here, and other people who look like me." Now, Clyburn, of course, is the highest-ranking African-American in Congress. But if he gets replaced by somebody who's progressive, and it's also a minority, well, then that eliminates your advantage of being the highest-ranked African-American in Congress. And he says finally, quote, "I have a set of experiences, and I'm not going to take any lecture from you." Nobody cares about your experience. All people care about is if you represent us. So I don't know if Clyburn does. I don't know if he's all that progressive. He might be part of the centrist wing. If so, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in your experience. And I'm sorry. But you've got to either go left or go home. Now, Pelosi, same thing for her. She is out of touch. She needs to go home. And so do the rest of the centrist Democrats. And on that, look, I got to tell you, Joe Crowley, he's not the first to fall. And he definitely will not be the last. As far as the Democratic Party goes, that is an empty ship. As Cenk Uygur says, it's a ghost ship. And we're the pirate ship. So, and we're going to take over. So, hey, if you're in the establishment, tell your establishment friends that we're not only coming for them, we're coming for you. Okay. Let's move on here. So that's how the Republicans are taking it. Or I'm sorry, the Democrats are taking it. Again, weird Freudian slip, right? Here's how the Republicans are taking the win from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So no one is more disturbed by the amazing win of Alexandria Cortez. Let me start that again. Now, no one seems to be more disturbed about the amazing win of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York than Sean Hannity. Now, in a segment last night, he said this.
You've got centrist, wealthy people who are willing to look the other way and take his life.
Wrong video.
Last night, a 28-year-old socialist from New York defeated longtime Democratic incumbent in a congressional primary race. As President Trump said tonight, he got his ass kicked. And many are hailing Cortez as a rising star on the political landscape. But in reality, her views, her policy positions are actually downright scary. Look, by the way, he was a guy that was supposed to take over for Nancy Pelosi, perhaps. Look very carefully. This is the future. This is your modern Democratic Party. Cortez, who will likely win the general election in a Democratic district, is pushing for, let's see, single-payer universal health care, universal jobs, government-subsidized housing for everybody, tuition, free colleges. She wants to abolish ICE and, of course, impeach President Trump.
Oh, my God. Look at all those things on that list. That is a scary list. Scary. Free college. Medicare for all. Getting money out of politics. Oh, my God. The horror. Wait a minute. Those things are actually incredibly popular. Medicare for all, for example, that single-payer, universal, which, by the way, this always bothers me. Universal health care actually does not mean what it's supposed to mean, at least when the establishment uses it. They think Obamacare, the ACA, is universal health care. It's not. It's not even close. Actual true universal health care means everybody gets health care. That is a single-payer, Medicare for all style system. And that has the support of 63% of registered Americans, registered voters. Okay, so that's incredibly popular. What about tuition-free college? That is at public universities. That has 63% support among the American people. What about a federal jobs guarantee? Well, everybody gets a job, right? Straight out of Stalinist Russia, I'm seeing all these articles, right? That actually has 46% support. Not bad. And another poll indicates the strong majority support for that piece of legislation in every state. Not only that, but what about criminal justice reform, right? 3/4 of Americans support reforming our criminal justice system. Now, abolishing ICE, that's a new one, right? So there's no polling data on that. But Ocasio-Cortez, she ran on that, and guess what? That is now a mainstream conversation, which is awesome. Now, a Fox News poll last year 83% have supported a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. So even Fox News viewers are in support of immigration reform. Now, abolishing ICE might be a little bit more controversial when it comes to more Americans, but among Democrats, I think it's starting to catch on and starting to get pretty popular. So even gun control, right? Now, gun control, a majority of Americans want some sort of common sense gun reform measures like background checks. So what on this list is scary? In reality, Sean Hannity couldn't have done a better ad for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And look, she's already set up to win in November because Republicans aren't really competitive in that district. Now, finally, he said this. The only difference between the self-proclaimed socialist that you just saw and the rest of the Democratic Party, she's actually more honest. No, that's not true at all, actually. Yes, she is incredibly honest. And she actually has those beliefs. Whereas the Democratic Party are more centrist and more corporatist. In fact, Sean Hannity actually agrees more with Nancy Pelosi than anything. The establishment despises Cortez, and they're so scared. Now remember, Nancy Pelosi had to reassure her donors, because that's who this message was, that socialism was not ascendant in the Democratic Party. Oh, no. You don't understand. The Democratic Party, we're capitalists. We're socialists, not ascendant. No. She doesn't represent us. She's weird district. Too white. It's always that same argument. Though I don't think she actually used a too white argument. But, weird district. Demographics, Crowley. Bad campaign. He ran a terrible campaign. Now, finally, he had this to say. This is the single most important midterm election of our lifetimes. Do you really want these people leading the country? Why, yes, Sean. Yes, I do. And I think a lot of Americans would agree with that. Based on what those policies are that I just laid out, the policies that you say are so incredibly scary all have majority support for the most part. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know why another reason people do really like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and why the establishment hates her? It's because she's one of us. She's a regular person. She is the people. She's not a multi-millionaire like Nancy Pelosi or Dianne Feinstein or a slumlord like Sean Hannity. No, she's a regular person. She's not an out-of-touch billionaire like Michael Bloomberg. She is a regular human being who actually cares. That's the future of the Democratic Party. Whether or not they actually like it. She's here to stay. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We got Morning Joe. That's an interesting story. So stay right here. If you haven't already, please give us a like and a share. And consider using the YouTube Super Chat to talk to the show. We'll be back in a minute. Stay right here. So that was the wrong music. Got some problems in it. We got chaos in the control room. Oh wait, this is the control room. My fault. Anyway. So welcome back to the show. It's one of them days, man. So we do have some breaking news that I want to talk about, and that's why it took so long to get back. We have had another shooting. So at least 4 people have been shot at a newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland, according to USA Today. Annapolis Police Lieutenant Timothy Sipe has said that there had been an active shooter at the building, and now that they have a subject in custody. Now, the Baltimore Sun owns that newspaper and says that multiple people had been shot, and that police are actually looking for any other possible suspects. So that's basically all the information that I have right now. We don't know any details about the shooter. We don't know any details about the people that were shot. We don't know any details about the motive. So again, we don't really know anything other than that there was an active shooter situation at a newspaper. Now, at first, I heard shooting, and I was like, uh-oh, is there another school? No. This time, it was not, but it is a little curious that it was a newspaper. So, again, I don't want to go off and do idle speculation on what, since we have little to no information on this, but it just struck me as a little curious, the fact that it was at a newspaper. But I won't say anything. I'm not going to go, like I said, into that speculation until I know more. But that is breaking news, so. Okay. Anyway. Let's move on. We got more. Excuse me. Now, yesterday, Anthony Kennedy, who is the normally a swing justice, is actually very conservative, announced his retirement. Now, that's effective at the end of next month. Now, Kennedy is not a liberal, okay? So, at the end of the day, the court is going to end up being 5-4, the same as it was before. Now, the thing about Kennedy, though, is that he was the swing vote on some cases, and so he's made some good rulings, but he's also made a lot of bad rulings. So, make no mistake, Justice Kennedy is not necessarily your friend. Now, he did rule on the LGBT case, Obergefell, so that's going to be a problem, right? Now, nonetheless, a lot of people are very concerned, rightly so, that we're going to have an extreme conservative judge that replaced him, and not a moderate justice. Well, when the news broke, I remember reporting that people started to blame Jill Stein and Susan Sarandon for somehow losing the Democratic or making Hillary Clinton lose. Now, Morning Joe, of all people, are actually going to set that record straight and put the blame where it really lies. Watch.
Yesterday, there were several people who were shocked at this news, and saw quite a few people actually with blue check marks by their name saying this was the bleakest moment in their life, and they just didn't know how they were going to move forward with it. There are many things that Donald Trump does that we criticize and talk about.
Cause concern.
Cause great concern, and they are actually violations of constitutional norms. Just for our friends that are suggesting the same here, when you elect presidents, this is what happens. And when Hillary Clinton didn't visit Wisconsin and didn't visit Michigan enough, and when we saw a young woman yesterday with a campaign, a message that was more inspiring in 3 minutes than what Hillary Clinton gave us in 2 years, they can complain about internet this and that, and the press did this and they should have done that. But the fact is, Hillary never had a message. She ran a horrible campaign. And this is the consequence of it. Is it not? What Donald Trump did yesterday is what presidents do.
He's not wrong. And again, this is what the establishment tunes into every day. And the establishment's the one that are freaking out about, oh, Jill Stein, we're trying to blame everybody else but our beloved Hillary Clinton. And Joe is actually principled on this one. I know, it's strange to say. That he's like, no, we looked at Hillary Clinton's campaign and it was terrible. And that's the truth of it. It was terrible. And he says, look, you may not like it, but Donald Trump's president, and he gets to pick judicial nominees. Now, look, later on he went on to say, no, look, Mitch McConnell did a record obstruction, and if the Democrats want to do that, then they can do that. They can go ahead and they can do obstruction, and I'm in favor of that. Because, no, you put an extreme conservative in a stolen seat, which, again, they already did for, they did to Merrick Garland. They stole his seat. So why don't the Democrats just saying, you know what, we're not going to vote to confirm anybody, and we're going to actively block it, at least until after the midterm, when Congress looks a little bit different. That would be great to do. Now, unfortunately, right now, as far as I know, the rules only allow for a simple majority. So that might be a little bit, that might not work out well. But I want the Democrats to continue to fight, to actually put up a fight in this one. They didn't fight for Merrick Garland, and I'm not a big fan of Merrick Garland, but he didn't fight. Obama didn't fight. Hillary Clinton didn't fight. And, of course, the reason for that is hubris. But anyway, look, the whole point, though, that Joe's getting to is Trump's going to get to pick a Supreme Court justice because Hillary lost the election. That's it. I know. People are like, but she won the popular vote. But that doesn't mean anything if you lose the Electoral College. And it is funny how whenever somebody brings that up, no, she didn't win the popular vote. Okay, are you in favor of abolishing the Electoral College? No, you don't have a position. You're just mad that your queen lost. And I'm mad that Hillary lost. Don't get me wrong. To say that she wouldn't have been better than Trump, come on, man. She wouldn't have been that bad. We have Roe versus Wade that could possibly get overturned. You think Hillary Clinton would have done that? Seriously? The thing is, I think the worst thing about a Hillary Clinton presidency is that it wouldn't have energized and awoken the left. And that's what we're seeing now. And so that is one positive that has happened under Trump, but there has been a ton of negative. Now, on that, we warned you about this. Bernie Sanders voters, we warned the establishment about this. We said, Hillary Clinton, if you nominate her, she's going to lose Trump. You can go back to 2016. You can find videos where I said just that. If you nominate Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump will win the election. We all saw the iceberg, and yet the band played on. They didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't care that she had no message. She had a terrible campaign, and she didn't campaign in Michigan and Wisconsin. The Russians didn't keep her out of Michigan. Whatever impact you think the Russian memes had could have been negated had she excited enough people to come out and vote for her. And she didn't do that. And she could have if she had a compelling message. But you ran on Trump is bad. Yes, Trump is bad. He's an absolute fucking nightmare. But you could have said, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually go and we're going to do real healthcare reform. We're going to give you Medicare for all because it's extremely popular. We're going to solve the income inequality gap. We're going to give you $15 minimum wage. We're going to do free college, a public university. We're going to do all that stuff that is incredibly popular. Instead, Oh, Trump is bad. Trump is bad. He's so bad. One more thing, right? Merrick Garland he was nominated by President Obama, right? After the death of Scalia. Now, it was Obama's choice to choose a replacement, right? Now, Obama, I had problems with him choosing the most non-offensive, centrist milquetoast choice, right? And the reason he did that is because, well, the Republicans. I need the Republicans to confirm him. Okay, yes. So you didn't have enough, to overcome a Republican filibuster, right? And Mitch McConnell did unprecedented obstruction. Obama still had a choice of doing a recess appointment. I mean, that's what I would have done. You're going to play that game of obstructing my nominee? Okay, recess appointment. How you like that, bitch? He could have, but he didn't. Why? It's because the Democratic leaders, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and the rest were like, no, we got to play decorum. We got to play nice with the Republicans. Well, what does playing nice with Republicans get you? It gets you Trump. It gets you Neil Gorsuch. This is a guy who says, no, I would rather have you freeze to death if it serves the corporation's interest. That's who Merrick Garland is. Or I'm sorry, that's who Neil Gorsuch is. And Merrick Garland, yes, probably would have been better, even though he would have been a centrist milquetoast justice. He still would have sided probably on the liberals' side for social issues a lot more. Now, right now, we have the most corporate court in history, and odds are that probably wouldn't have changed very much under Hillary Clinton, if Merrick Garland had been confirmed in the first place. But that didn't happen. And it was the hubris of the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton that did not get us a centrist, at least a centrist judge. So, and all Trump needs to do now is he just needs a simple majority. And he's very likely to get his nominee. So, elections do have consequences. And so does running elections. And if you run a terrible campaign, and if you have no message, and if you excite no one, then don't be surprised when no one votes for you. Okay. All right. One more here. The North Carolina Republican Party recently polled its support for a candidate earlier this week. Now, what was so bad about this candidate? Well, his name is Russell Walker. Now, Russell Walker has a website. Of course, everybody has a website. Cats have websites. Dogs have websites. I know, it's crazy. So what made this so bad? Well, it's some of the stuff that was contained on this website. For example, and this is Russell Walker, as I said before. This candidate apparently wrote on his website that God happens to be a white supremacist. Oh, well, that's interesting. What, is he like an atheist or something? No. He thinks that's a good thing. But first, let me give you the statement here from the North Carolina Republican Party. It said, based on recent behavior and previous statements, the North Carolina Republican Party is unable and unwilling to support the Republican-nominated candidate for North Carolina House District 48. The NC GOP, along with our local parties in Hoke, Scotland, and Robeson counties, will be spending our time and resources supporting Republican candidates that better reflect the values of our party. Okay, well, that's interesting. So that's the Republican Party saying, oh my gosh, this guy, no, we're not at all interested in what he's saying. That's funny because the voters seem to have been fairly interested. Now, let me tell you some of the controversial stuff that he was saying. He said the website says that Christ descended from Joseph. Set up, no, that's the name of the website. Sorry, Christ descended from Joseph, and includes multiple essays and articles authored by Walker. Now, it says, what is wrong with being a white supremacist? God is a racist and a white supremacist. Oh, well, there you go. He said someone or group has to be supreme, and that group is the whites of the world. Someone or something has to be inferior. In all history in sub-Saharan Africa, no two-story building or waterproof boat was ever made. What? Are you serious? Wow. Okay. More. It also gets a little anti-Semitic. They said, the website says, Jews are satanic, as they all descended from Satan. No, I'm pretty sure, no. Wow. All right, then. Now, let me give you how much he won by. Walker actually won a Republican primary against an opponent, John Imarato, with 824 votes. Nearly 65% of the vote. So here are Republicans in North Carolina saying the racist guy, the guy who thinks God is a racist and a white supremacist, that guy, he's our man. That's our guy. Oh, we love this guy. We're going to vote for him overwhelmingly. That's who the Republicans are. Look, the Republican politicians are like, oh my God, this looks terrible, dude. We're never going to be able to win an election with this guy. But the Republican base is like, we don't care. We love this guy. That's who we want to represent us. Somebody who thinks Jews are descended from Satan. North Carolina, man. Look, if you think that this is an isolated case, this is not the only white supremacist that has run for office. And it's not going to be the last under President Trump. Now, look, Trump didn't cause all this. Let me be clear about that. But did he embolden it? Absolutely. He said he basically made it so that racism is more out in the open. We have seen more instances of racist people running for office and nearly winning. We also had pedophiles running for office and almost winning. We've had so many different videos of people just coming up and accosting regular people because they look Mexican. That's who the Republican base is. Not all of them. I'm not saying all of them. But there is a very large contingent inside the Republican Party that is racist, that will vote for people like this. If you think it's a small number, I don't agree. I think there's a lot of racism inside the Republican Party because that's what they're based on. Don't believe me? Just look up all the other different stories that have happened. All the other instances. And you'll see what they believe in is white supremacy and racism. If you think the Republican Party is now a rational party filled with rational actors, you are wrong. They are driven mainly by hate and spite. That's who the modern Republican Party and the modern conservative movement is about. Okay. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Make sure to please give us a like and a share. Please consider becoming a patron, supporting the show, patreon.com/TYTNation. Also, please use the super chat. That goes to help the show and keep us on the air. It's been kind of a terrible month for raising money and being able to keep the lights on and stuff like that. So, any way that you guys can help, liking, sharing, etc., sharing at our Patreon page, that helps us out and helps keep us on the air. All right. Thank you, guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
It is an alien force, not of this world.